Okay, so we're currently about halfway through the month of July, a little over halfway through, and I wanted to kind of use the momentum from the previous video I made. I recorded it about a day or so ago, so I wanted to use that momentum and just go into making another video pretty much straight away. So I'm going to be talking about some books from my book haul for the month. Again, still got 2 or so weeks left in July, so I could be adding to this pile, but I figured I've got a good amount, so I'm gonna show them off, talk a little bit about them, and yeah, we'll get started. So, first book off the rank is called Against the Machine by a gentleman named Paul Kingsnorth, and the subtitle is On the Unmaking of Humanity. So I found out about this book through a podcast that I listen to frequently called the Theology Podcast, and it's hosted by three gentlemen: C.R. Wiley, Glenn Sunshine, and Tom Price. And it's a great podcast. It's a really fun listen to listen to. They're very smart gentlemen, talk about a lot of very interesting topics. If you like Tolkien, if you like C.S. Lewis, that's often a subject that comes up quite often, if not nearly every episode. I'm sure they find a way to talk about something that Lewis or Tolkien said around something else. So very much recommend that. But they've been talking a lot about obviously the kind of the culture or the situation that we're in at the moment. They've been talking a lot about AI and things like that, and specifically about a lot of things that Paul Kingsnorth has written or talked about. And obviously this is a recent release, and so they have specifically talked about this book, and that's where I came across it. But I'll read the dust jacket just to give you guys a little bit of an idea exactly what this book is about. All right, so here we go. So, in Against the Machine, novelist, poet, and essayist Paul Kingsnorth presents a wholly original and terrifying account of the technological, cultural matrix enveloping all of us. With insights into the spiritual and economic roots of techno-capitalism, Kingsnorth reveals how the machine, in the name of progress, has choked Western civilization, is destroying the earth itself, and is reshaping us in its image. From the first industrial revolution to the rise of artificial intelligence, he shows how the hollowing out of humanity has been a long game, and how your very soul is at stake. So yeah, so a lot about kind of where we're at the moment, how technology is going to be playing a big role in not just the economics or the industrial or practical way we live, but it's going to have a massive impact on humanity, how we view ourselves and each other as people, and how we understand spirituality, how and what technology is going to do to that side of things as well. So it's something that is, people like C.R. Wiley and that are talking about these things in regards to how should we as Christians view these things. But it is something that it's on the horizon, and in many ways it's already here, but we're only just now talking about it. But there are a lot of good people who are thinking about these things and talking about things. So we're not totally lost in that. There are a lot of smart people doing a lot of thinking about these kind of things. Regardless, it should be an interesting read. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've heard a lot of other people outside of that podcast that I mentioned who have talked highly about this book. So happy to have it on my shelf and looking forward to reading it. So that's Against the Machine by Paul Kingsnorth. Up next, I've got a couple of books here. So first is The Boniface Option by Andrew Isker. This is actually a second printing of this book by a new publisher for this book, New Christendom Press. And again, this is a book that's kind of talking about the times that we are in. Kind of highlights many of the issues that we're facing as a culture. And I believe, given the title and what I vaguely remember about this book, because it's been out for quite some time. Like I said, it's a second printing, but it was previously published by a different publishing house. But it doesn't say when it was initially published. I want to say maybe like 2020, 2019, around that time. So about five years ago it was originally published. And I think it's kind of taking a bit of inspiration from another book called, I believe it's called The Benedict Option. I don't have it and I haven't read it. I don't know a whole lot about it. I believe it was written by a Roman Catholic. But again, similar in the sense of it was talking about the current time we're in, the issues that we're facing as a culture, as a religion, and basically giving a response to that. Here's an option, the Benedict Option. This one, similar kind of thing, but with Boniface, which, again, this is probably butchering the general story of Boniface. I don't know too much, but I know that obviously Boniface was someone who was apologizing and evangelizing to, I believe it was the Germanic people, the Norse, the Vikings. I could be off on the details, so if you do know, please let me know. But yeah, he was evangelizing, and they had this tree, this large old oak tree or something like that. That was obviously it was a tree that belonged to the gods, belonged to Thor or something like that, and they were very reverent of it. And basically said, if you touch the tree, if you try to chop down the tree, the gods would smite you. And so Boniface basically was like, you want to bet? And chopped the tree down and was not struck by lightning, was not struck by Thor, and ended up bringing those who witnessed, and many Nordic Vikings around him converted and became Christians. So with that, I think this book is giving us a more offensive option, whereas the Benedict option was more monastical in the sense of we need to bring everything in and wall ourselves off and focus on community and all those things, which are good things. And I think there's an aspect to that if I'm understanding what that other book, which I should probably get and read as well, is saying. What this one is saying isn't a rebuttal, but maybe I would personally probably put it as a companion. I don't necessarily see why you can't have both. It's not one or the other option. But this is more of I think an offensive option. It's more of, hey, here's the problems that we have, here's where we're in, this is what we need to do, and we need to actually be cutting down the idols of the day. We need to be taking the axe to the technocrats, to the spiritualists, to the pagans, to the Muslims, to feminism, all of that sort of stuff. We need to be taking an axe to it as a culture, not just walling ourselves off and not just accepting it. So I think that's what the book is kind of going to be covering. So I'm interested to give that a read as well. It's been a while since I've read like a here's the kind of current state of the day kind of stuff. I was reading a lot of those a few years ago, including like a lot of like, this is what it means to be a man. Here's a, men's help books kind of stuff, Christian, non-Christian. And I'd read a lot, and I was like, okay, I'm getting tired of this. I'm gonna go read Narnia or something like that. But I'm thinking it might be time to start picking up some of these books. Against the Machine, Boniface Option. I've got a bunch of others as well. It might be time to just slowly kind of revisit these books again. The next book is Wisdom on Her Tongue. I don't know if you can see that. By Lexi Survey. This is also by New Christendom Press, which is why I've got these two books together. Not my usual read or book. This is a book that is written for wives. It's written, each chapter kind of walks through various pieces of advice for women, for wives. And so I'm not the target audience, but I do have, so in my library I have a fairly decent sized Christian section where it covers a bunch of stuff, to include a section on men, women, sexuality, parenthood, being a husband, being a father, being a wife, being a mother, etc., etc. So I've collected a few other books that are in a similar vein to this. I don't go out of my way to get them. They're not like a priority for me, obviously, but I do have a few, and obviously I'm adding a new one now. And this is because I may not ever actually read this book myself, and that goes with, there's a lot of books that I have that I may not actually ever read, but I'm collecting and I'm curating a library. I might not read this, but maybe my wife will read this one day, my future wife. I'm a single Christian guy at the moment. But I'm collecting these books because eventually this is not just going to be my library, it's going to be my family's library. My wife is going to read books from here. I'm going to add books that are hers into here, and so books like this are for her. Therefore, future, Lord willing, any daughters that God might bless me with in the future, they're for them, along with all the other books that I have on womanhood, being a wife, being a daughter, being a mother, etc. So they're for them, even though I'm currently not married. But they're also, I think, something where it's not a bad thing for men to have read books like this and to kind of understand what wives and mothers are being encouraged in, or what advice they might need, or something like this, because you might be, as the husband or as the father, you might need to be the one giving them that encouragement, having that understanding. So while I don't think it's something that you should read seriously and fanatically collect or anything like that, I don't think that's helpful. I do think having an understanding of what's in these books, given that your significant other is going to be reading them, and so that you can be loving and gracious and patient and all of those things to them, or to the situations that these books describe when they are dealing with emotions, or when they are dealing with anger, when they're in postpartum, whatever it might be. If you, through these books and through conversation and communication with your wife, having a better understanding of that sort of stuff, you can love them better. And that's obviously what we're commanded to do. We're commanded to love our wives. So this is going with a few others that I have on womanhood and things like that. Again, I'm not the target audience. This book isn't necessarily for me, but it may be something that I peruse through. It might be something that I actually will pick up later on when I am married. So it's not necessarily a book for right now, but it is a book for, Lord willing, my future. So, or the future of my wife. So yeah, so there's that one. So yeah, so Wisdom on a Tongue by Lexi Survey, and both those books were from New Christendom Press. All right, so taking a turn away from non-fiction / Christian books, this stacks up probably also a pretty good indicator of the broadness of my library and the broadness of my interests in regards to reading. I like to think I've got quite a lot of, not everything, but quite a wide range of categories in my library, and that I think almost anyone could probably come in here and find something that they wanted to read, which is a cool kind of thing to think about in regards to organizing and curating or putting together a library. So with that, we're taking a turn, and inspired by the movie that just recently came out and encouraged by Amazon Prime Day sales, I got Andy Weir's, I believe I'm saying that right, project Hail Mary. So obviously the movie just came out with Ryan Gosling. I've heard nothing but good things about the movie. I haven't seen it yet. I plan on getting a physical copy of it, Blu-ray, when it releases, which the Blu-rays may be out by now. I'm not quite sure. I know it's on streaming services, so I'm assuming there's physical media. But yeah, so I plan on watching the movie eventually. In the meantime, I've got the book. I also have The Martian as well. That was one of the books that I think I attempted to read back back when I was in the military. One of the few books that I started, never finished. Enjoyed what I did read, but just kind of fell out of it. Yeah, I've heard good things about the book, heard good things about the movie, and yeah, Amazon Prime Day sale. It was like, I don't know, it was like $15 or something like that. So grabbed that. Then another Prime Day sale is Think Faster, Talk Smarter by Matt Abrahams. I know nothing about this book. I saw it on the deals. It was like $10. I was just like, I wanted to put a couple other things to justify a cart for Prime Day sales, and this one looked interesting. So it's the subtitle is How to Speak Successfully When You're Put on the Spot. So it's a book on, it's a self-improvement communication book. Looks pretty, it's small size, although now I'm looking at it, the text is actually quite small, so there might be a lot packed into this book. But it's not it's an interesting topic. I'm thinking about apologetics or evangelism, being put on the spot and having to defend the faith and give an account for Christ, for the gospel, for church history, whatever it might be. And yeah, being able to do that succinctly when you're put on the spot out in public or at a dinner or wherever it might be with a group of friends, that's probably not a bad skill to develop. So there's probably a lot in here that could serve me in that regard, in that interest of mine in regards to the faith. So, but yeah, it was small book, kind of a cart filler, but it looks interesting. I've no doubt it will be interesting, and it probably has some useful bits of advice in it. So, Think Faster, Talk Smarter by Matt Abrahams. Right, next up is Halo, Ghosts of Onyx. This is the 4th Halo book in the series by Eric Nyland. I hope I'm saying that right. And I'm slowly collecting the Halo books. Obviously, I played Halo a lot back in high school with my friends. Halo Reach was my game, multiplayer and co-op, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of fun memories of the Halo games. But I never read the books. I knew of the books and thought, oh, they'd be cool to read. But I was more just into playing the game with friends and having a good time, and so I never really delved into the books. But yeah, now all these years later, I'm slowly collecting them. I have read the first one, The Fall of Reach, which is basically, it's a prequel to Halo Combat Evolved. It kind of talks about the history of the Spartan programs with Dr. Halsey, kind of talks about them finding the children and recruiting John, Master Chief, and kind of the history of training, the different evolutions, and then a few missions, and then you get to kind of the events before the first game, where they escape on, I believe it's the Pillar of Autumn, which is the ship that you're on at the beginning of the first game, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a minute. That's stretching my memory a little bit. So I read the first book. I've got, like I said, I've got the next two. This is the fourth. I should probably get back into reading them. I enjoyed the first one. It was a good, fun, easy read. So that is the next one, Halo Ghosts of Onyx. All right, getting there for this. Next one, Ammunition Demystified, the non-bubba's guide to how ammunition really works, by Jeff Stewart. I believe that's how that's pronounced. There. So this is basically, it's a reference book. It's a thick reference book. You've got images, data graphs, all sorts of stuff like that here. I think I saw like a bunch of equations in here earlier. But yeah, so basically it's just a massive resource or reference book for ammunition. I'm not a gun guy. I do like firearms. I have a few firearms. Unfortunately, I don't get to use them as much as I would like, but it is something that I'd like to know a little bit more about, be a little bit more informed, get a little bit more into it. This is something that I think my brother will actually have a far more enjoyable time reading about. That he nerds out on a lot of that kind of stuff, like gun building, all that sort of stuff. We look longingly across the pond at America and go, oh, I wish we could have all those fun toys, but we can't here in Australia. But so this has been on my list for a while as just something I wanted to get to put in my library to have for reference. I've got a growing size of, I call them like skill books, which kind of include manuals, textbooks, like old, university textbooks, reference books, things like that, survival handbooks, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've got stuff like a lot of military training manuals, shooting manuals. I've got, what else do I have down there? Yeah, like books on like situational awareness, survival handbooks, obviously. I got a lot of like homesteading, self-sufficiency reference books, and then they kind of hard cut into, like, I think I've got a book on like sign language down there. I've got some like dog training handbooks, a bunch of other stuff like that. So that's kind of like my skill acquisition section. So that's where this is going to go. So, but again, yeah, this, like I said, this pile kind of highlights the very broad range of books and things that are on my library and that I want to read or have read. So, Ammunition Demystified. And lastly, we have Men's Adventure Quarterly, Volume 1, Number 1, the Most Wanted Wild West issue. So this is Men's Adventure Quarterly, edited by Robert Deese and Bill Cunningham, with guest editor for this issue is Paul Bishop. And this is basically, it's a collection of and reprinting of a bunch of those like pulp adventure stories or adventure magazines from like the 50s, 60s and 70s. So it reprints a bunch of stories from those magazines from back in the day, like For Men Only magazine and stuff like that. And it just highlights a lot of the articles or a lot of the artwork. I'm a big fan of the pulp novel art style. I really like it. I haven't been a pulp reader. Obviously, I didn't grow up in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, so I don't really know a whole lot about the genre. I'm very much a visitor to this. This is more or less my first foray into that genre, but from the outside, I appreciate the artwork and have wanted to specifically start collecting these quarterly magazines for a while. So I'm excited to have the first issue. I'm probably going to be slowly just kind of adding the next. I think there might be, I want to say around 22 issues now that they have that are available. So I've got a few to collect, but I think I might just start adding them to the orders that I make, that I save up for and get. So, but yeah, I'm excited to have this. I'm excited to just be able to like pick it up, you know, thumb to a page, read a short story, look through the history of the art and stuff like that. I do have some like Alistair MacLean, like Guns of Navarone, Where Eagles Dare. Obviously they are movies as well. That's where I first know them from, but they're pulp adventure or pulp books. The Executioner by Mac Bolan books. I've come across those. I've got a couple of those up there. So I've got a couple. I haven't read them. I just kind of know of them and have slowly started collecting them. And but hopefully through these I'll learn a bit more and kind of dip my toe further into the genre. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's it for now. Anyway, there could be more. Like I said, we're only just over halfway through July, so I may or may not have a few more books to show off. So we'll see. All right, it's been a few days. I'm back. Like I said before, I was expecting some more books to arrive, and they have. So we're going to continue this book haul video, and I'm going to showcase the rest of the books that I got in the mail for July. So the first book is called White Knights and Reviling Wives by David D. Edgington. And this book, I originally ordered it alongside the other New Christendom Press books, The Boniface Option and Wisdom on Her Tongue. It obviously arrived a little later. And depending on where you sit, what your thoughts are about certain things, feminism, gender norms within Christianity, etc., 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 this could be a bit of a touchy book for some people. It's dealing with a subject that is often overlooked or neglected in the church, hence the reason for this book being written. So obviously, as the title suggests, it deals with two character types: white knights or the nice guy, and reviling wives or the abusive wife, which actually is the title of a previous book by this author as well. And so yeah, it's discussing women's sin, specifically in how she may weaponize her words, her attitude, how she will rebel, recant, be cruel, unforgiving, how they'll just willingly refuse basic biblical teachings and attitudes, and how a lot of men in positions, pastors, counselors, will side with them and ignore the obvious sins being conducted against the husband, because that's just the kind of cultural milieu that we're in today. So, should be an interesting read. Yeah, I think it's a subject that not a lot of people want to talk about. People have their thoughts on it, so let me know your thoughts. Some of these books are a bit, some people would see them as controversial. I don't necessarily see them as controversial, but some people would see them as controversial. So, first book off the rank today, starting out with a banger, White Knights and Reviling Wives. Okay, the next book, or the next three books technically, is the 3 volumes of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. So this obviously is a classic. These are really nice. These are the really nice Everyman's Library editions. I have a small classics collection that I'm slowly trying to grow, and some of the ones that I do have, I'm slowly replacing with the Everyman's editions, because they, under the dust jackets, they come in these really nice cloth bound hardcovers that just obviously they look really nice and are very put together very well. So that's the second one. This was an Amazon Prime Day sale, $66 Australian, normally retailing at like 130 plus, depending on the time of year and stuff like that. They fluctuate. So yeah, I had to grab it. I don't believe I have anything else from Tolstoy yet either. No, I don't think so. This is my first Tolstoy, first Russian literature too, I think, which is cool. So yeah, War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. That was the next one. Lastly, this was a pre-order I had put in a month ago now. and this is Outside the Wire by Andy White. On the front lines with the SAS in Australia's war in Afghanistan. So this is a Australian book, and to go with my growing collection of autobiographies, biographies of Australian soldiers who fought in the modern global war on terror. So this is Andy White. From the looks of it, obviously I haven't read of it, but I skimmed through it. From the looks of it, he was either born or grew up in England and served in the British military for a time prior to obviously coming to Australia and then doing selection and joining the SASR here in Australia. So yeah, it should be another really good read. I always enjoy reading these. One of my favourite books that I've read is The Crossroads by Mark Johnson VC, which is one of our Victoria Cross recipients here in Australia. His autobiography is a very good book. So yeah, I enjoy this genre, and I'm looking forward to reading this soon. So that's it. That's all the books that I've gotten over the course of the month of July. And yeah, sorry if this section was a bit, I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I feel like I've got a runny nose. I was just editing, and I uploaded my first video the other day, or yesterday, and editing it, I became hyper aware of how much I say so I was cutting out a lot of that word, and now sitting here recording this, I'm aware of the fact that I'm saying it, and I'm trying not to say it, but I'm still saying it, and so that's kind of putting me off my game, and it's in the morning and all sorts of stuff. So I have no idea how this is going to go, but it is what it is. I'm just trying to get in the mojo of making these videos and just flexing or just working out the muscles in doing this. So it'll be what it'll be. I hope it's at least somewhat engaging, and perhaps you've gotten a few suggestions or ideas for future reads for yourself from these. Let me know again what you guys have been reading, maybe what books that you've gotten this month as well. I'd love to hear about that. And I also thought I would maybe not book related, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do just books on this channel. So I thought I might also just show off some other things that I've gotten this month. So my brother and I, we had a weekend last weekend where we hung out and watched the live action season 2, the live action of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And when the first season came out, however long ago that was, a year and a bit ago, we sat down and ended up having binged the whole thing and had a really good night roasting the show, and just how terrible it is. Pointing out all the inconsistencies and the things that they're not doing or did differently from the animated show that are now going to have consequences and issues. Well, if you're bringing this event forward and doing it this way, then how's that going to work later on? And so we said we'll do the same thing when the season 2 came out. It came out, and over the course of a couple of days, we watched that and had a really good time. Again, just shaking our heads, roasting it, trying to figure out what they were doing. So the show's terrible, but we had a really good time with it. But finishing that weekend, we went out shopping and got a few things that we needed to get and stuff like that. And I ended up getting some Blu-rays, some physical media. I'm slowly collecting physical media as well, mainly Blu-rays to have, and obviously that's just to have it, so I'm not reliant on a streaming service or something like that for all the movies and TV shows I want to watch, but also for there's a part of it I'm thinking about my future kids. I don't want them to grow up in front of a TV necessarily. I certainly don't want them to grow up with an algorithm or a subscription service that's going to feed them stuff that I'm not aware of. And I want them to experience some of the things that were meaningful for me as a kid as well. And just have that kind of entertainment for my kids be in a more structured, controlled environment. If they want to watch something, they either need to actually go and find the disc, find the Blu-ray of it and ask, or they've got to come to myself or their mum and ask, hey, can I watch this? Can we put this on? And so that's just one of my kind of motivating factors behind why I'm collecting physical media in the form of Blu-rays. Also books as well, physical books. But yeah, so I'm collecting Blu-rays as well. I figured I'd also show them off as well. So the first Blu-ray, keeping in line with kind of thinking about what are some movies and shows that I want to introduce and watch with my kids and stuff like that. What were things that I grew up with? Babe. A Little Pig Goes a Long Way. I haven't watched this movie in like forever, since I was actually a kid, but very clear memories of watching Babe and of watching its sequel, Babe Pig in the City. So I saw this and I was like, I think it was like one of those buy two get one free deals, or it was cheap anyway, and I was like, okay, I have to get that. Lot of memories there. So there's that one, and then the next two are not for my kids, but again, just I grabbed them to add to the collection. I didn't have them yet, so the first one is the original The Crow with Brandon Lee. I think I watched this movie back with my good friend Jake. He had a knack for just finding those kind of cult classic films and stuff like that, and obviously I think this one's one of those. So I grabbed that, and then the last one I grabbed was The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. A great classic of Tom's. I love this movie. I think it's a really, really good movie. I've watched it. I don't think I've watched it recently, but it's definitely one that I will revisit fairly regularly. So yeah, that's it. Those are my physical media, my Blu-ray collections, or haul that I got this month as well, on top of the books. So I'm probably going to continue that, just kind of showcasing kind of those things that I acquire throughout the months, as well as I kind of think about curation and how do I go about that, what is it for, what is it serving, stuff like that, kind of like what I mentioned before as well. That's kind of, I'm trying to introduce that way of thinking into my purchases. Whether or not that's just me trying to like justify continually purchasing stuff, that could be a way to spin it too, or if it's actually deeper than that. That's up for debate. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But yeah, so that does me for July. Again, let me know what you guys have gotten this month, what books from what I've shown off in this video that you're interested in or that you've read. What are your thoughts on them? Love to hear them. And if you've enjoyed this video and you're interested in maybe following along with what I'm hopefully going to be doing in this channel, please please subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, hope you all have a wonderful day and God bless.